excited to be diving into the topic of toxic versus healthy masculinity. We'll be diving into the difference, how it affects men's mental health, and just the all-around opinions of manhood today. Joining us today is our very first guest, Walter Tanton, who, if you don't know, is also my husband.
Hello, I'm very excited to be getting in on this podcast finally, even though it's the only second episode. I'm still excited to be here talking to you guys. We've been talking about a topic we should go over there, and we both agree that toxic masculinity is something that we've dealt with firsthand and that we've had to experience through the years, not only growing up, but in our adult life too. So we think that we'll be able to give some pretty good insight on this subject.
So before we dive in, I do have questions that I will be answering. I do think he's perfect for this episode, obviously, because he's a man. He has firsthand experiences. So we will be diving in, and I will be asking him questions. He will be answering. I do have a couple definitions to share before we dive into that. So I will actually read those right now. And again, I have my handy dandy podcasting book. But so the definitions, I just have 3, and I just want to start out with these definitions just to kind of start the conversation, but start it with facts, so more into perspective, things that we will be talking about in this podcast episode. We just have about 6 questions, and you can just answer them to the best of your ability. Obviously, in your own opinion, we're not licensed in any way. It's not therapy in any way, but it's things we've been through, and then just
shared
advice.
Experiences.
Yes. So, in your opinion, when you hear the word masculinity, what does it mean to you personally?
Oh, masculinity, can have a lot of definitions personally, you know.
Yeah.
But I think what it is to be a man and to be masculine is to be able to do what you're supposed to do in order to be okay, or for your loved ones especially, to do what you've got to do as a man to be able to provide. And I think a big part of masculinity is being honest and being open about your emotions.
I definitely agree with you there. I feel like you can't really have anything, whatever trait that may be, if you're not honest, if you don't have communication, and really honesty within yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, nothing, I feel like, is going to go good, because then you'll just be covering, acting out things you should, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let's see. How does toxic masculinity affect men's mental health and relationships that they have, such as parenting, being a husband, son, family member? What do you think, in your opinion?
Toxic masculinity, it can really, really affect relationships in a big way, and not just like marriage relationships or, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend. It can have a huge effect on parenting relationships too. Like, one thing that I had to kind of grow out of was that everything that you get has got to be worked for. I feel like that's a form of toxic masculinity. Well, yeah, it is a good mindset to have, to know that nothing in this world comes for, you know, you don't get anything for free, and everything is mostly hard earned. At the same time, it's okay to be able to open yourself up and accept help when you need to. And that's something that I really had a hard time doing and growing, especially when you're young and have a family. You're going to need help sometimes.
Yeah. You
can't have it instilled in you that, okay, you've got to always be able to make your way on your own, no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, and I definitely agree with that. I feel like we both have, in a sense, where it's like, we've looked at it like, are we supposed to be better than where we're at right now? Like, are we, you know, we look at other people's lives, or, you know, even things, you know, our parents have told us and everything like that. And it is harder. Like, it definitely is harder, and it is definitely okay for help, to ask for help. Especially being parents, like, it definitely takes a village, and a village is more than 2 people, but a village to be able to provide and everything. So, yeah, help, I think you worded that amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Has your personal understanding of masculinity changed over the years?
Oh, I would definitely say so. Yeah, I think it's definitely. I mean, it's still changing, honestly. I mean, I'm only 25 years old. You know, I'm still definitely learning things about myself. I would definitely say that it's changed in the way, with marriage, especially about how I used to look at gender roles in a marriage. I would say gender roles, I think is the right word, because now it's not so much as, to me, it's not the woman's supposed to do this and the man's supposed to do this. No, it's whoever needs to do what needs to be done is who needs to do it. You know what I mean?
Yes. And I do, just to piggyback off of that, even some things that we have been through, like really even figuring that out as young adults, like, you know, he did have a long-term relationship, a longer relationship. I never really had long-term relationships before us getting together. And then we were together for a long time, and then obviously we had a kid, we got married, and it comes along with that, like, we're still learning, like, we're in no way perfect parents, but we did have to learn that, you know, yes, a man's supposed to work, yes, the man provides and everything like that, but coming home, like, I still needed, you know, my husband, you know, our daughter still needed our father, like, we had to navigate that. Even with me, like, just because I am home all day, like, I still can, you know, make him his meals to have when he comes home and everything like that. It was definitely a learning process for us because we were both so set in the way of thinking and how a marriage should look like, even how we looked at marriages, how marriages were shown around us growing up in, you know, in that way. So it was definitely a learning experience. We're still learning, but that's probably the biggest learning we had to go through, I feel like.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Yeah. So, let's see. What outdated ideas about manhood have you personally had to challenge or unlearn?
I would say outdated ideas about manhood that I had to unlearn. Probably a lot with my emotions and being able to let out my emotions, because, I mean, everybody knows, it's not no secret or anything, you know, men ain't supposed to cry, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, and not even that I think that, it is just a load of malarkey, you know what I mean? Men ain't supposed to cry. I think it's very healthy to cry, and I mean, honestly, that's all. Even when I was growing up, I've always been kind of, you know, more emotional than other men, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite verses in the Bible has always been the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept, because if Jesus can cry, then I should have no problem and should feel no shame about crying.
Yes, and that, to piggyback off of that, it is, and we'll obviously have an episode where we dive more into that, but mental health for men is just as important as it's mental health. And sometimes I do feel like it is looked over, like, you know, women's mental health, when men's mental health, when men go through the same thing, like, their emotions are the same as us. Like, yes, you know, they may show it in different ways or anything, but I tell them all the time, cry. Like, cry. I think it's good. I think, you know, it really shows that he's feeling, you know, emotion, and he's really connected with his emotions, to be able to, you know, not be afraid to be like, yo, I'm shedding a few tears for a little bit because this is crazy. You know what I mean? So I honestly love that. I find that so attractive that he can be, you know, so emotionally connected, because I'm an emotional person, so you might as well both be.
Yeah. See, going off of what you were saying, it all kind of comes back around, because men, we usually don't mean to, you know, shut out or like try to shut off our emotions. It's just something that's kind of ingrained in us when we're kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have to have that tough persona, which it's not really necessary. I mean, that is toxic masculinity, trying to act tough all the time and, you know, trying to be all macho all the time. That is toxic. It is okay to cry, and it is okay to talk about your emotions.
Yeah. Because if you're sitting there and you're not using that, I feel like a very important emotion of crying, of being like, okay, you know, this hurts, or I need to communicate this, is going to come out in other ways. And how do you expect a relationship to work if it's coming out in anger, or if it's coming out in toxicity and, you know, relationships and everything like that? It's like you have to be able to channel every emotion that you have. Like, anger's not even bad either. But if that's the only emotion you're using, it's going to be bad. Like, it just is. I don't care what anybody says. Like, it is. So, yeah. But in your opinion, do you think the perception of masculinity has evolved in a good or bad way, or both?
Honestly, I think it's kind of both for me, because yeah, while men are able to, you know, open up and talk more, and they're not really forced to have that toxic masculinity, it's still not a bad thing to be masculine. And I feel like nowadays it's starting to be looked at masculinity overall is a bad thing, which I do not agree with at all. I believe it's okay to go out and go have a fire and, you know, go fishing with your friends, even if you don't like doing that stuff. It's okay to connect with your masculine side as a man, and you should never let anybody try to shut that down.
Yeah, 100%. Because masculinity is very important. Like, as long as it's not getting, which I feel like that's kind of the point, or what we're trying to say is it's becoming to a point where it is just becoming toxic, because people are only looking at it in a certain way. Like, okay, men are supposed to do this, men are supposed to do that. That's when it becomes a problem, because it really is, you know, they have a masculine side. Obviously, you know, there is different things that they'll go through, different ways they'll show their emotions, and that's perfectly fine. But when it comes to where it's like, oh, and they're looked at like, ew, like you're crying, or you're trying to communicate, like, that's when it becomes a problem. And that's when we're sitting over here basically hyping up toxic relationships. Like, that's not, I feel like that's not okay, because that's literally saying, and then that's where it's getting masculinity and toxic masculinity is getting misconstrued or put together like it's one thing, and it's not at all. It definitely needs to be separated and needs to be understood that masculinity is okay. There's healthy masculinity though, and then there is toxic masculinity, and that is a fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like I was saying, it's okay to connect with your masculine side, but also don't be afraid of your feminine side either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's okay to, you know, if your daughter wants to put some makeup on you or something like that, let them do it. I mean, at the end of the day, that's part of being a father, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's changing both ways, really.
Well, yeah.
For the good and for the bad.
Yeah. And I do think our generation tends to just take things and bend it at its will to whatever, you know, we want to fly in our generation. And that's what I really want to stop doing, even with myself. Like, things that I see, like, I can't be okay with one thing and then be like, oh, this is wrong. Or I can't be hyping up my friend that's in a toxic relationship like, oh no, you do you, boo. It, you know, the guy really is toxic, and that's really a way that is hurting and it's being detrimental and everything like that. Like, well, obviously we'll have more episodes down the line about it to get further deeper into like every aspect of masculinity, but it's a very big topic, so I'm glad we're talking about this.
Masculinity is a very broad term.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it so hard, because obviously we don't have, you know, all 24 hours in the day to talk about it, but trying to keep it on the path and trying to just open up kind of, you know, people's eyes to just think about it in a different light. And, you know, you agree or you don't agree. That's just it, you know. So for the last question, what are some ways society can better support positive masculinity, in your opinion?
Some way society could support better or positive masculinity? Yeah.
So say, like, I mean, through social media, do you feel like they let men be emotional or show more of a masculinity side on social media, or do you feel like they kind of try to put up a front as well on there a lot more?
I think that society can help men embrace the positive masculinity versus the toxic masculinity by honestly letting us be masculine, you know what I mean? Like, don't try to shut us down when we are being masculine, you know, but also check us if we are being toxic, you know what I mean?
I do. I do agree with that. Because, I mean, all someone can say, like, I mean, if you really aren't agreeing, everybody has their own opinions. That's what I want to say. Everybody has their own opinion. Someone may be like, oh, that's toxic masculinity right there. And that person really not even know. And it could take one person, or like here, this video right now, to reach one person. They'll be like, maybe I do have a toxic masculinity about myself. It's not, something that makes you a horrible person. I feel like people can change, and I feel like it's something easy you can slip into. And just having a mindset. I know for me, when I get an idea in my head, or if I just think this is how something should go, I'm very set in that. And it's hard to like talk to me and try to get me to change my way of thinking, because I am so set. Like, I was so, even with the masculinity part, like, being home all day after being a mom, like having the stay-at-home mom, like what that's even supposed to look like. Like, it's different ways, and I feel like it really depends on the person, how you look at it. But in the simple terms of even the title, toxic versus healthy masculinity, there is two. So at the end of the day, there are steps, there are signs of, people being that do have a more toxic masculinity, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in, as parents or whatever. And it's just really for that person to look inside themselves and be like, okay, is what I'm doing causing people around me harm? Or is it more just for trying to protect yourself, trying to protect your heart, your emotions, or whatnot? And I feel like if everybody just starts thinking about it more in that way, then it would be less, culturally cool to be toxic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly believe that toxic masculinity, like, is something that's ingrained into you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not something that you hit 20 years old or 25 or whatever and you just start being a toxic man. You know what I mean? When you're a child, you see people do these things. Men do these things. It don't have to be your dad. It can be a teacher, a coach, or something like that. It doesn't have to be a parent, or a brother or something like that. But from a young age, we see these things, and that just kind of, we come up, and I mean, you can notice it and realize it in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I realized, looking back, I'm like, holy crap, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is toxic masculinity, what I was doing. But, the first step to realizing it, when you do realize it, is you got to accept it. And you got to say, okay, this is me being toxic, so I do need to chill out a little bit. But that doesn't mean stop being masculine.
Yeah.
Don't ever think that.
It just means changing. If it's affecting somebody else, it's changing in the way that you can still be yourself. You can still, be masculine, but it's just a healthy way of doing it. A healthy way of telling your partner, like, hey, this is what I need from you. Hey, I'm not trying to act this way, but do you understand where I'm coming from? It's very big about communication, especially in the relationship point of view of it. Communication is big, I feel like.
Yeah. That's with everything in a relationship.
Yeah,
communication.
Yes. So, really, just to wrap this episode up, I feel like we definitely had some good conversations. I am so excited that, our first guest was my husband, and we got to talk about something like this. We have been through things, we are married. It's definitely not easy. We are parents, definitely not easy. So, he will definitely be on here in the future.
Yes. As long as she lets me live here.
Oh, shut up. No, I'm so excited. He will definitely be on future episodes, but I'm glad he could be on this one with me. So I just want to thank every single one of you. If you guys made it this far, we really appreciate it so much. We will definitely be deep diving more into different conversations like these. The next episode will be posted June 23rd, so stay tuned for that. And that one will be motherhood and mental health. Let's talk about it. I feel like that's definitely a big thing. This podcast definitely will have a lot to do around mental health and everything like that, just because it is such a big thing in I feel like our generation. It's always been a big thing, but it's just becoming a bigger thing that I feel like we need to really get together and focus on more. To help future generations. Make sure to go subscribe, guys. Make sure to share this podcast if you feel like this could resonate with anybody, even someone that's not close to you. Just hit that share button. It really takes nothing more than 2 seconds to hit it. Hit that like button. And something also I want to ask you guys, and what I really need from you guys, is to comment. Comment how you felt about this episode. Comment episodes you want to see, topics you'd like to hear or would want us to cover one week. That's one thing I do need. I need the interaction from you guys. I would love your advice, love just, talking to you guys, seeing how y'all feel, and really just, becoming a little family, the Bougie Momcast family. I'm just so excited. I feel like it's getting there. It's getting definitely to where I want it to be, even though this is the second episode, so I'm not getting ahead of myself. Obviously, still lots to learn, lots to, do, but I'm excited.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. I love watching your first episode.
Thank you, baby. Thank you. And I do appreciate the support. He is obviously my number one fan, so I appreciate him so, so much. But you guys, too. Y'all are my support. Every time I post a video, the love I get on it, I really do, appreciate that. That makes me happy. I've gotten several messages, and those have literally made my day every time someone texted me. So I just love that. Even if it's a simple message like, you liked the video. I appreciate that, and you don't know how much I appreciate that, for real. So, yeah, to wrap up today's episode, with our motto, I will always be keeping it chill, but keeping it real. So, till next time, June 23rd, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. We love you guys so much. Bye.